Alright, you guys. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Twilight City 123 tutorial by me, ShibiPod. We're gonna learn a lot about not just the level tonight, but also about the game mechanics themselves that make 123 possible and 124 maybe not a piece of cake, but totally doable when before it didn't really seem like it was all that easy. Twilight City is a really tough level because it requires really optimal movement and 3 really fast dives without any big waves setting you up. So you're doing this dive off of nothing but you're bobbing, your natural up and down bob pattern. So getting all 3 dives to be pretty fast on each lap, and they're all at the beginning of each lap, so you can get a lot of attempts in on like just your first lap dive. But getting the dive to work on all 3 laps and nailing everything in between and after is really a tough challenge. And on the bottom left of the screen, I have the only 5 players listed here who have broken that or gotten at least 124. 124.999 is currently the benchmark time. If you beat that time, you get your name on the website. And currently, these are the only 5 players who have done it. Modal is most recent on this list. Hayate, former champ. Ilu, another former champ. Mo, the new beastly player. And myself, the first one to get the 124 and the 123. And tonight we're really focusing on the 123. However, I'm going to show the 124s also because they deserve to be shown in this context. They're insanely good times. These are insanely good players. And this video is going to show those players how to get down to 123. But even more importantly, it's going to help so many more people join the 124 club. I think I said 103 back there, but I meant 123. So the first thing we need to discuss is the character and the settings. So on the screen right now is my controller with the input viewer. It is definitely me with the controller. I mean, see. So I have control of the N64 on screen right now as well. So we go into time trial, and we're picking this guy. His name is David Mariner. He's the fastest character in the game, so we pick him. I hold up when I pick him to get the custom color. Then I go to the right, because the right is the custom settings. And if your settings aren't already like this, you should put them like this. Until, I mean, you can, once you're good with these, I encourage players to try tweaking it. Because it'll make more sense to you once you have a base skill in the game where you pretty much understand these really well. But starting like this is absolutely the best choice. Everybody has played like this. If they don't still play like this, then they can still give players advice who are playing like this. So pick these settings, then you go in, and the level today is Twilight City. It is the 6th level, and this is the 6th part of the 8-part series of my benchmark tutorials. So we go into Twilight City and you pick hard mode and you go in. But That, of course, is the easy part. Now, before I can even show any of the level, let's watch a video. Okay. Let's get the play capture on top. So this is our current leaderboard, all the way down to all the way down to 16th place has 127. Most, I think, like, we have a cutoff at 125 that is small between Gilly Guide and Analogism. Only 10 players have 125 or better, and then only 5 have the 124 or better. And I've queued up all of the 124s, and I wanted to watch some of these to show you guys like the basic route through the level and kind of what we're initially looking for here. Alright, well, that's mine, so let's watch this one. This is Mo. He currently holds second, and when he got this, he was the 4th player to get 124 on Twilight City. This time was accomplished actually kind of recently as well. This is April 1st, 2017. Mo excels on this level particularly because he's a very smooth player overall, and especially with Mariner. He has held the world record even on Drake Lake, which requires you to have godlike smoothness. He understands the diving pretty well, and I'll kind of explain that also. Could probably even blow the screen up so you could see the videos a little bit better. In fact, let's do that after the dive. Okay. Yep. Avoids the buoys perfectly well. Gets nice clean turns. He's so far ahead of his dolphin. This is his first ever 124, and it's a 124.6. April 1st, 2017. So that run was great. It was spot on. He hit all 3 of the dives. Everything was pretty optimal. And, like, how does the diving really work? A lot of players ask me that, because in Marine Fortress, there's that huge wave that you just ride up and then dive on the backside of. But you don't get that benefit on this level. So, how are you supposed to still get the dive on Twilight City, you know? Dog is freaking out because she sees the shadows from the lights. Anyway, so the bobbing in this game, it always starts at a random time, but once it starts, the next bob and every bob after it is in the same, like, position. Like, think of it like a ladder. Always the same timing. Think about it like a ladder. I'm gonna pull the blanket down on her. Okay. Think of it like a ladder. Wherever the ladder starts, like, you can push or pull the ladder, but every step in that ladder is going to be the same distance. They're still going to be the same distance from each other. So once your bobbing starts, the ladder has started, but it might start later sometimes, or it might start earlier sometime. So, but once it starts, it's going, and it's consistent. No matter how fast you are or how slow you are, your timing on the bobbing is always going to be the same, the exact same. So, one thing you can do is to benefit from that. Here. One thing that you can do to benefit from that fact is to play with your dolphin, but not until you have a run that you bob perfectly and you hit that dive perfectly on lap 1, where you're bobbing down at the exact moment you cross that wall, like that. Watch it again. All you have to do, if you're bobbing perfectly on lap 1, all you have to do is hold forward, and at the very lowest part of your bob, you will cross that wall and you will pass right through it. It'll look like you didn't dive at all. So one more time. This might just take like 20 resets to get one of these. It might only take that much. And it's significant getting it on lap 1, and I'll explain why. So see how close that was? It barely lost any speed. And then, if everything is executed perfectly, and I'll try to explain what everything is. If everything is executed perfectly, watch lap 2's dive. It lines itself up pretty much perfectly. So I was still on the down bob on that one. I didn't have quite the confidence to, this is not the world record, this is a different 123, but the bob was like so perfect with the wall on both laps because the pace was there and the lap 1 dive was perfect. Like if the lap 1 dive is perfect like that, the chances of lap 2's dive being perfect, if you're on pace, are 100%. Because that's where that part of the level falls on the ladder. The ladder that I was explaining, where the bob pattern is always the same, it just starts at a different part. Like you can slide the ladder a little further forward for the next attempt. It'll be randomly placed by the RNG. And this is true on every level, by the way. So if you can consider these facts, like the next generation of Wave Racers is going to break this game wide open with that fact. Like if you just understand the bobbing better, like Sunny Beach 102 is easy, Sunset Bay 104 is easy, Drake Lake 110, sorry Ilu, but maybe not for me, but it's easy. Well, it's not any easier than this, of course. I think this 123 is probably on par with some of those, maybe not quite Drake Lake, but it's a good time and it requires a high understanding of the bobbing pattern. So I really encourage people to understand why this is very consistent, where if you can hit this dive on lap 1 and it's perfect, you should just save that ghost, even if it's not going to be your PB, because then you'll always see on Shindu, when you're using the dolphin, on Shindu, if you're racing against your dolphin and you see it bobbing, it's doing the exact same bobbing, like it had the same exact timing at the start of your bob ladder as that PB. And it's, since you don't need it to be a PB, just like unload your ghost by completing on any other level or just resetting your N64. Get a perfect start with a perfect dive on lap 1 where you're going down at the exact moment that you need to, so that you just like pretty much pass through the wall when you hold forward on the first lap dive. And then on lap 2, Like, it doesn't really matter what happens, because as long as you save that ghost, then you'll always have that comparison where you're like, oh, I'm not bobbing with the ghost, so I'm gonna reset. And you just can reset until you're bobbing with the ghost at the very beginning. And you get that dive, and you don't even need to play the rest with the ghost, because this is what it's gonna look like every time. And if you're always bobbing at the same rate on every good attempt, then your PBs are just going to be a lot better. Now that's for 123. For 124, it's much more relaxed. If you can get away with playing a little bit more sloppy and getting a couple of dives that are a little bit slower, and being a cycle or even like almost 2 cycles behind, you'll still get like a 124.9. But for the 123.9, you need to push to the very front of that cycle and continue to get the fastest dive possible with no slow dives. Dr. Fish says 125 is free. Yeah, I think that maybe not free, because you need to learn how to play. You need to learn, like, how does the dive happen? And so I'll explain a little bit of that as well. So this is the 123. This is the 123.7 that I'm going to use for a lot of this tutorial. So I want to go back to the beginning. Alright. Love this song. Right? Probably one of the best pieces of music in Wave Race. So, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the best level in Wave Race. So you get that up dive. I'm not using the dolphin at this point, but if I were, I would recognize how good that dive was and just get the dolphin to save. Handling each turn with a lot of care, and I'm making it so that there's pretty much no adjustment. After each turn, I'm already lined up, like pretty much exactly where I need to be going. This second dive takes a little bit more of like an exact. I would use the pull back, push forward dive, which can be tricky because it only works at the top of your bob cycles. So if you're coming to the top of your bob cycle, you can pull back, push forward really fast on the joystick, and it's fast. It's like this. It's like that. You'll see me do it in this video on laps 2 and 3. Do the dive, but your jet ski is down. Yeah. So this little motion here, get used to doing this. It's good and it's fast. It's fast on a lot of levels, actually. You almost had it. I think the most important part, though, really is lap 1. So you get max power. You just line it up, and if it looks like this, if you're bobbing like this, and then boom. I would say start holding forward right about here. Like watch where he does it on the input viewer. You can really see where I hold forward. It works only on this bob cycle, so if you keep crashing into the wall, it's just the wrong bob cycle. That's all. That's all it was. The wrong bob cycle, and it wouldn't work for a 123 anyway. You're tapping B. You're tapping B at the start, and I keep going back. B, B, B. And I just go for that part. And if it's perfect, keep going. Now if you go like way down in speed, like look at how low the speed goes here on this. 113 was the lowest speed. Yeah, 113. That's pretty good. And you want to come right up after that too. So you're like, hold up, let go. Hold up, under the wall, let go. Up, under the wall, let go. Like, let go right after the wall. If you let up too early, you'll get clotheslined. So I'm like tapping B, up, let go. Tapping B again. When you tap B again, it like stops you from popping out of the water. So when you pop out of the water too high, you lose the ground. Or you lose the surface of the water and you can't accelerate unless you're on the surface of the water. Like, think about how a jet ski works. And I know that video games aren't always perfect, but they got this right in Wave Race 64. When you're not in the water, you're not accelerating. It's not possible. So once we get the dive, let's talk about what happens after. Remember, B, up, let go, B. Okay, so we're right here. We got through the dive, and you're probably thinking, at this part, you're probably thinking like, holy shit, it's a run. And you're right, but there is so much left. Don't get nervous yet. There's no point in getting nervous here because this is when it will just start. This is literally the beginning, because you're going to have probably 20 times that you crash into a wall for every one time that you get past it without scraping it too hard or without losing too much speed or just crashing straight into the front of it. So we're to this point and your heart jumps a little bit. You're like, oh my god, here we go. So I like to line up, you need to be to the left of this. Touching this little crease here is insta-death. This is concrete, it doesn't give. It's a solid object. And Mariner has perished multiple times on this. So we're lining up, just gaining speed, and I'm tapping B. Love how this doesn't... Okay, good. I'm just trying to get a lot of speed, so I do stick a little bit to the right of this tunnel, because then when I'm coming out, I don't need to turn as hard to the left, because I can make it more gradual if I start the turn further to the right in the tunnel. And then he goes around. Now I start leaning a little bit harder. We got to about 127 for a couple of frames there. Probably about 6 frames. And now we're turning even harder. Even harder. And then look at, here we go. This part's really important because see this angle? Remember when I was talking about Glacier Coast one day and I had mentioned that on the ice turn on Glacier Coast, if you turn towards the ice, like the big chunk of ice that you have to get around while you're sliding on the slippery ice, if you're really close to it, you can actually turn toward it and it like turns your jet ski away to avoid it. That's what's gonna happen here. In this area right here, it's very shallow and you'll touch and slow way down. But if you turn your hardest right over this little like sandbar, if this is the sharpest part of your turn, you're almost always safe unless you're going straight into it anyway. And it's gotta be lined up to be like one big turn. This is like this turn right here. It's pretty cool because you see these waves that are starting here. These waves that are starting actually like highlight what the perfect turn would look like. If you pay really close attention and you're on good pace, you'll see it. I swear. I don't think it's just in my head. Tell me if you see it. See how this wave starts here? Watch how it watch how it arcs. Whoops, I don't want that. See how it arcs around, and you can see it like coming around past this buoy here. That's like showing you, it's telling you arc this turn, and then when you need to, at the very end of this turn, make it a little bit sharper so that you don't touch any sand. It looks weird because you're turning towards the sand to stay out of the sand. If that makes any sense, you're getting close to the sand so that you don't touch it. But here we go. We got the sharpest part of the turn, and I only go down to 97 here. Well, that's great. Let's watch the whole run up to that point, because it's just got to be smooth. There's the dive. Here's turning, and now making it sharper. 97 was the low speed. Now this part here is fun. I really like this part. So we're done with the turn over that little sandbar, but now you have to be conscious of the ramp that's ahead. The here. Turn this back on, but I'm gonna have it on low. You need to be conscious of the ramp, and right behind the ramp there are the mines, and you're only in danger really of hitting one, maybe two of them on this course in this difficulty. So I see how turned this angle is already, so I know that I'm already turning into the right direction, so I don't need much of an adjustment. So on my input viewer, I can see that I'm just like tapping left a little bit. You saw a couple of taps there, because I want to be very close to this little mine up here. So here's the ice turn. I'm aiming here, and now right. You want to turn right, but not lose very much speed there. So that's kind of why I'm so close to that mine. Here, I'll go back again. Very close to this mine right here. Right, and look at the speed, 113. 113 is a good speed. So, to backtrack a little bit, look at this. We've done the dive on lap 1 at least. Now it's time to cut this corner pretty close, and to avoid losing speed, we kind of hugged the right wall for a lot of the tunnel. See what I mean? Like, see how close we are to the right wall? I'm sorry that it darkens when it pauses, you guys. I wish it didn't. I could use my raw footage, I guess, for some of this to supplement this without the darkness. Yeah. Let me pull up a I don't know if I have a, Oh, I can find it. Nope. Well, we'll continue with this for now then. Ah, not. Oh, that looks pretty good. Here we go. Alright. This should be quite a bit better. So this video is the current record. This is our current world record, so I think it'll be a good video that I can make a little bit brighter without having to deal with the darkness factor. Alright, so this one will have some differences, but one thing that is the same is the first lap dive. Ooh, this one is a little bit different. So this one, instead of holding forward, what I did was I was actually a little bit, the dive was set up to be a little bit later, but you can sneak it in a little bit earlier if you get like a frame perfect back forward dive, where at like the very earliest moment you can do it, you do it. You hold back, and then you push forward, and you'll dive under. This lands you in about the same part of the cycle as before. It actually gives you a little bit more room to work behind the bob cycle in lap 2. Very, very close to that wall, but not losing much speed at all. Seems I don't have as much control over this one. So you can get really close to this right wall without touching it. It's like actually kind of a surprise. It's, again, like using that lean to the right is really helpful here, where it looks like I'm going to hit it, so I just lean closer to it, and somehow that helps you avoid it in some cases. It's like a really clutch strat, actually, that helps on a lot of courses, too. So right about here, we're trying to straighten out. You don't want to get too close to this sand, because, of course, if you do, it's a big time loss that doesn't seem fair. You know, you touch this sand over here and you'll slow down to like 80 sometimes. So we're straightening out pretty early. Like right here, I pretty much have my line. I'm not going to turn until I pass the yellow buoy. And at this pace, this wave will be right about here, and I'll cross it, and it will still like, I'll have to dive through by just pushing forward briefly, a little bit of it at this pace, just to keep ahead of the wave cycle. So here's that. I am going like slightly through the back face of it. And then I also kind of sense here that this buoy is going to pop up just a little bit because it was just coming down, so the next natural movement of the buoy would be up after it bobs down. So as it like kind of bobs up, you can tell you can get a little bit closer to it. If it's down, you can't be close to it. You'll bonk like really hard off of it. Here I am going over the wave. I'm going to make my adjustment while I'm at the top of the wave, so that I'm like pretty much already turning left before I get to this buoy. Because if I have to turn left after I get to the buoy, I'm losing time. I'm gonna like start my left turn before I get to this buoy. And I'm already in the left turn position right now. So to see that section again. Straight, right, left, left, and then hard left. I think people lose a lot of time right here too, because it feels natural to just take this turn kind of wide. But if you pretty much cut this buoy and you're turning hard left so hard that you're like gonna crash into this part, pretty much you feel like you're gonna crash into this, that's pretty good. If you feel like you're getting too close to this wall, turn a little bit toward it so that your jet ski avoids it and your body just pretty much goes through. You can start straightening out here too, as long as you're a safe distance from it. Now there's this mine right up here, so I'm going to go as straight as I can up to the mine, and then I'm going to turn right just slightly so that I can still squeeze through the next gap, which is really thin. So here we can see the next gap, so I'm going to start turning right already. The next gap that I have to make it in between is this yellow buoy and the wall segment up ahead. So the best way to do that is to come into that segment already in your left turn position a little bit. So here we go. And you can see this is like top end stuff right here because I'm bobbing down right when I'm passing this buoy so I can get closer to it because I'm under it. If I'm bobbing up and the buoy is up like this, then I'm gonna bonk. But I'm down and the buoy is like partially up. Watch this. Watch this again. See how the buoy was like just a little bit and I'm going down, so it's like perfect. It's the bob cycle. And that also means that I'm on pace to do a really sweet and close to this wall left turn with a favorable bob cycle, which is exclusive to this pace with that start that we had where it was like pretty much frame perfect diving. The easier version of that is from the last video that I showed where you just hold forward. This is a little bit more complex, but the dive itself actually loses a little bit more time, but it's time that you can make up in lap 2. So I was in that left turn position pretty early. Like I'd say right here. I'm on the up bob, so it's safe to turn a little bit sharper as long as you understand that when you start your down bob, it's going to really take effect. Like that turn is going to start to cut really sharp. Everything has more of an effect on down bob except for speed gain. You gain more speed on your up bobs. So on lap 2, I could tell that I was in like that, you know, that dive ladder that I was talking about, or the bob cycle being like a ladder where you can move the ladder. Every time you reset, the ladder moves either closer to you or further away from you, and it's laying down on the ground. So you've got a step here, a step here, a step here, a step here, you know. Those steps represent like the bottom of the bob cycle where you bob all the way down. And as long as the steps line up with this part of the level, if they're laying down, like let's count how many bobs. After lap 1, you can... Alright, so we start the lap down, 3, 4, it's 5 bobs. It was like exactly 5 bobs from the start line to the dive. 5 bobs, 5 ladder steps between the start point and the dive. So as long as it's always like that, as long as you start like that and you execute lap 1 perfectly, it's going to be like that again. Surprise, on lap 3, it's going to line up perfectly again. To where the dive is going to be the perfect time, and you'll have favorable bobbing throughout. And you can test this, and you can try it over and over again. All you need is to start a game without a dolphin save. Play on Twilight City, just spamming holding forward when you get closer to the wall on your first lap for the dive until you get it. When you get a perfect dive where you barely lose any speed under the wall and you come back up, just finish the race, and now you have a dolphin to compare with. And you can tell in like the first 3 seconds, if you have the same bob pattern as your dolphin, you're good to go. Keep going. And if you don't, now just reset until you do. Honestly, it doesn't take that many attempts. So it's so much of a better way to spend your time. I used to say that the champion should not use the dolphin. I still kind of think that there's some cases where the champion shouldn't use the dolphin. But when you're going for certain times, and you know that it's going to save you so much time, you should ditch that idea, push L, and let's go. If you have the same bob cycle as your dolphin, and your dolphin did a perfect dive on lap 1, have that dolphin saved. Save that thing onto a memory card, and play it out until you have a perfect lap 1, and you get a lap 2 dive that's even more perfect, you know, like this dive I'll show you. Then finish that run and save it. Make it even better. I mean, this does require that you beat the previous dolphin, so don't make your first attempt dolphin too good, because you might not want to save it. But get that dive on lap 1 and save that dolphin. That's really important. Yeah, so here, I'll blow this back up and we'll show the end of lap 1 again, going into lap 2. So we get left right here, cut it pretty close. Good. I can tell that's 5, and I'm holding up. Here we go. So let's go back to, whoa, I paused, come on. Back to the beginning. You know you're on point for 123 still, you guys, when at the very beginning of the lap, you just bobbed down, like on top of the finish line. Because that means you have like a free dive coming up where all you need to do is hold forward and you're still on pace. So 2, 3, 4, and then hold forward here so that you get under. Look at 120 was the low speed, in only one frame of 120. So at this point, that's actually really important. It's more important to get that perfect dive on lap 2 than even on lap 3, and here's, I'll explain why. You need to, at this point, you need to act like you're behind. You need a way to catch up, because all you did, if you're going for 123, all you did by getting 2 perfect dives so far, and to be on pace, all you did is give yourself a slight chance. You have to think like that too. At this pace, you are not guaranteed anything, and pretty much everything needs to be perfect, including the things that I can't explain that will happen to you. And you will lose speed at certain points, and you won't know why, and even I won't know why. So this takes a lot of trial and error and just trying things out for yourself. You know, continue tapping B when in doubt. Tap B more like on the up bobs to like make the up bob last longer, if you know what I mean. It makes it feel more suppressed so he doesn't come up as high out of the water. It doesn't actually make it last longer, but it makes like the distance between you and the water always like a more constant. So now let's talk about lap 2. Lap 2 is actually what would stop me from getting 123 more than any other lap. And it's because there is a cycle that is like frame perfect after all of that just happened. So we just got a perfect lap 1 dive and lap 1 execution, like perfectly, the way that the developers hoped that one day someone would play this game. And now that we did that, lap 2, the game shows us a glimmer of hope that something great is possible by pretty much just giving you the lap 2 dive for free. The lap 2 dive is for free if, and only if, the lap 1 dive was like frame perfect and everything else after that was perfect. If those credentials are met, lap 2's dive will always be perfect. Always. You can test me on this. If my theory is correct, which by the way it is, if my theory is correct, if you line up lap 1 where the dive is perfect and then you nail everything else after that, lap 2's dive is set to go. The RNG is perfect. It's not even really RNG. It's just a continuation of the RNG that was at the beginning, and it just so happens to also line up perfectly. So now it's time to show the game that we can do lap 2 even better than we did lap 1. Yes, you can do all 3 laps like this, Mo. You could do all 3 laps like this. I didn't go for that because I wasn't confident in getting it like that, but... And actually, I think it might actually be easier than doing it the way that I did. So right after the dive, I tend to turn right just a little bit and get a little bit more centered inside of this, because again, we want to give ourselves room to keep a lot of speed going around that turn. So here we are. I go all the way over to here. This is like a good 7, or let's say that this is like, I don't know, 12. From this wall to this wall, let's say like 10 meters. All right, I don't know for sure, but if it's 10 meters, I'd say I'm a good 6 meters to the right. And there's only like 4 meters to my right and 6 to my left. So, and then I just kind of bow out to this position because look at how much it helps my speed. And then you'll kind of see where I start my left. Like right about a little bit before here. And then you just pull this turn around. Don't do it so sharp that you lose a lot of speed, but do it and remember those arcs that the water like draws for you. This lap was a record lap at the time, by the way. Look at these arcs that the water is drawing for you. Just follow these arcs. Try to do it without, think about this part as like Drake Lake. Try to do this without turning really sharp. Just follow these water arcs. Look at, they're drawn out for you. And then at this part, turn sharp just around this sand. This can be the sharper part of the sand, because that way you can get closer to the sand. If you're turning, the game allows you to get a little bit closer to the obstacle that you're turning around. Isn't that crazy? So if you're in danger of hitting something, turn toward it at the last second. It might save you. This one, we lose a little bit more speed. We kind of just touch a little bit of sand up there, And make a little adjustment to the left here to give myself room to turn right around this without losing much speed. Here we go. And no scrape against the wall, and I think 113 was the low speed. Yeah. Here we're lining up, and we're going to watch this a few times because this is the most important part for going for 123. at this point, we need it to look like this. We're pretty much we're going face first into this wave. This is how this is going to look every time for you at this pace. Because in order to get this pace, you need to have a frame perfect or nearly frame perfect lap 1 dive. And B, because since you had that perfect lap 1 dive and it gave you the perfect lap 2 dive, we're always going to have the same bobbing pattern and we're always going to be at this same part at this pace. The timer's always going to be at like 45.0 if we were to pause it right here. Every time we get to this buoy, where we're past this buoy, but it's still on screen, it's going to say 45.0 and we're going to be on the up bob. Alright? So that's why you want to continue using, getting good with the same bob cycle. That being said, if you only play with one bob cycle, you're going to be really bad at RTA, which makes you play with every bobbing cycle. It makes you be good with them because you don't know what you're going to get. So here at this point, I'm going to unpause it. So I'm not losing a lot of speed there. I touched the front of that wave, and now I'm turning to the right. I only went down to about 120. And this is the most crucial part now. You get over this wave, and you need to get to this buoy before this next wave touches you. And if you don't, reset. Unless you're only going for 124, then you can keep going. But see that wave, how close that was? It was very close. Actually, the other video, here, get that off of there. Let me grab the other video. The lap 2 on this video, it's probably better to watch that part on. So we go to the left here, to the right, keeping speed, and just kind of grazing past. Beating this wave so that you don't lose any more speed around that turn. So the most important part of the whole second lap, which is the most important lap. If we pull this back up, only went down to a low of 115 or 117 on that whole section. A lot of this is the same. We have a lap record on this particular run. So I have the down bob again right when I'm next to this buoy. This buoy, you'll always be passing it at about 53.0 or 53.1 or 53.2, I guess, if you're a little bit behind. But you could maybe still get a 123.9 if you were at about 53 point, a low 53.2 at this point. But here at this part, you're able to take a little bit sharper of a, oops, I thought that was play. A little bit sharper of a left turn here, because it's on the exact down bob. And then look, the game is oh, you're still on this mythical 123 pace? Well, it's odd, but you're still bobbing exactly down, right on top of the finish line. See that? And now I'm bobbing up right after it. 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a perfect lineup for another really fast dive. In this run, since that was a lap record and I was feeling pretty good and I didn't want to lose the run, I didn't risk holding forward for that dive, but it looks like it could have happened. If I just held forward, it might have even been a little bit faster. left, hard left, and you can use like down and left for some of the sharper turns. But I would recommend, if you're going to do that, to use like a tapping method or be really careful, really gradual on the control stick on those kind of turns, because it's easier to get out of control on like the down left turns. Okay, this is back to the beginning of lap 2, because I kind of want to explain this turn. So this is the last turn of each lap. In the perfect bob cycle, you're bobbing up like when you're coming up to it, and then while you're going around it, you start bobbing down. So you can actually make this like kind of a straight line, where it's like a V almost, where you mostly just catch the water when you're at this point, when you're already close to behind it. So you can use that to cut pretty close and then make it sharp at the end there. Since this buoy is so close, you don't have a lot of options that keep you a lot of speed, but if you just play that part pretty optimally, you don't end up losing much speed. I do recommend, if you get like a 29.2-ish lap on lap 1. Oh, nice. You can listen to this. I do recommend, if you get a 29.2 first lap and you do it because lap 1's dive was super legit, then what you should do is go into lap 2 expecting the perfect setup where you don't have to do the full down-up dive. You can just do the moment of holding up dive, if that makes sense. And a lot of this tutorial does kind of assume that you've kind of familiarized yourself with the game, and you might even already have 125 just based off of playing other levels. Maybe you're interested in this level, and this is like your first time getting your feet wet on Twilight City, the best level in the game. You just want to know how to push your time further. Well, 122 is possible. I'll just say that. I might not be able to do it, but somebody will one day. And this is going to be the groundwork. They're going to have to build on top of this. But this is what I know. And when you're in the tunnel on lap 2, and you just had a 29.2 with a perfect dive first lap, get that hold forward dive, kept to like 122. Get this turn where the ripples actually highlight the turn. Very close to that, only 113 was the low speed. Avoid touching that extra wave. Turning very close to the pavement after that red buoy. And then here we're keeping a lot of speed. We're on the down bob right when we cross the finish line, so we know that the dive on lap 3 is going to be pretty close to the wall. You know it's close to the wall when he's diving down. He's almost to the wall and he's like on the down bob. That's when it's a good dive. A bad dive is when he's bobbing down and then the next down bob would be after the wall, so you're going to crash into it. And if you do that, like let's say in RTA, if you do that, you can't control where the dive is going to be, so you need to take that early down bob and dive with it. You lose time, but it's okay because it's RTA. You can't promise yourself perfect RNG. Where the ladder is placed is RNG. The distance between the spokes on the ladder, that's always the same. As long as we're using the same ladder, aka playing the same game, and we are. We're all playing Wave Race 64. So, beginning of lap 3, remember, we're on the down bob, right when we cross the finish line. Boom. Finish line comes and we're already on the up bob right then. Remember that 60-40 like 60% on the, we're about 60% of the way to the right side of the tunnel. And that's like right about here. And from here we can kind of start leaning to the left just to make sure that the turn is primed and we can make it around this wall. And when we get around this wall, we are going to, at that point, we are going to lean left and follow the ripples that are highlighting this turn with the perfect angle. I kid you not, this level highlights this turn. Left, look at these ripples. It didn't do it for as long on this lap, but look at these. You see those? It's beautiful, man. And then each one of these turns don't lose much speed. If you think of this level as Drake Lake, Advanced Drake Lake, it's just so much more playable. Okay. So let's go back to the tunnel. Get in the dive. 60-40 to the right. We're further to the right than we are to the left of this tunnel. That gives us a lot of speed going around here. And then don't lean too much. Don't lean too much. Get over to the left. Lean further at the very end. That way you can get a better angle around here. Stay to the right of the mine right here. You don't really have to worry about these mines. They're pretty far out of the way. But of course, you're tapping B. You're tapping B. Now push to the right, but not too hard. If you start turning right here, this is fine. We're trying not to go under like 113 around this turn on any of the 3 laps. You'll be bobbing down right about here. Alright, we're on the down bob, so we're going to go around this. We're going to try to keep this straight line. As you can tell, this wave is a little bit further along now than it was on lap 2, so we're not going to run into it. Which also means that this one's going to be coming along a little bit sooner. So here's this wave. You want to like turn while you're on the wave, that way when you hit the bottom, your jet ski's already in the turned position that you want. So I make that aerial adjustment, it looks like. Now check this out. If you can figure out how to beat this wave on lap 3, once you're already at this pace, like around 114. So if you can be right here, and have the clock say 114.0, and your dives looked similar, and your times looked a little similar, or maybe a little bit better to get you to this point. And if you don't touch this wave here, then that's why I say 122 is possible, because this slowing down to 100 right there is the biggest time loss in this run. This is the record, and that right there was the biggest time loss in the run. So if you can figure out how to cut that part out, if you can beat that wave, this wave right there, if you can beat that wave entirely, then 123.2 is probably that run, and we're also going to be talking about 122.9 being very close behind. As usual, play this part really tight and close to the wall. I mean, not the wall, but close to the buoy. This wall, this ramp, and then the mine behind the ramp. Always just be thinking about where they are. You can start turning to the right just a little bit. It helps you avoid this mine because you're turning toward an object, and remember how I've been talking about when you turn toward something, it helps you avoid it. It's true in this case too. You just don't want to turn to the right too much, because then you'll be, you're gonna be missing that buoy. line up the left turn kind of earlier than you might think. That way you can just grip the water and make that turn. This last turn, too, one danger here is turning too sharp and hitting this. If your up bob is a little late, you might hit this because you won't have enough control over the turn at like the peak of your bob. So it's good to turn sharp here, and then you have full control, and you just drive it right into the left side of the finish line, which is much closer than the right side of the finish line. So, as is tradition for the tutorials, let's watch the whole thing, and then let's watch each of these other players' 124s. Alright, so we have a very quick down-up dive at the very peak bottom of the bob cycle, very close to the brown wall there. I'm tapping B a lot on up bobs, especially, but in general a lot because I'm trying to keep the traction perfectly flush with the water. Hold up for that dive. Get about 60% of the way over to the right side of that tunnel, so that you can bow your turn more and keep more of the speed. Here we only touched 2 of those waves and therefore avoided the 3rd wave. That's like this synonymous with being on that bob cycle, starting the lap at that moment. The sharpest part of your turn can be the part that is like right over the sandbar, because it helps you avoid the sand, and it also helps set up a cleaner next turn too, because you won't need to make such an adjustment. And just do yourself and everyone a favor and finish your race as close to the finish line's corner, the corner that you're closest to. In that case, that's the left side of the finish line. So when you cross the finish line, you want to be very far to the left of the finish line. So here I have lined up everyone's 124 who has one. I wanted to watch these for dramatic effect, maybe, if you will. And just to honor these great players, let's watch some of their runs. First up, this is mine, so I don't want to, we just analyzed mine, so I don't want to watch mine. Let's watch Mo's in full. We did show his earlier, but we'll see it again. This was his first one. This was again on April 1st, 2017, or it was reported on April 1st, 2017. And also, when you're going for 124, you can go behind like quite a bit and catch back up, and that's what makes this quite a bit easier than 123. Is that lap 2 there, the dive wasn't nearly as close to the wall, so you lose speed when the dive is further away from the wall and you have to be underwater longer. But if you lose like just enough time during the lap, so like that combined, the slower dive combined with the buoy bonk right there, puts him like back on a cycle pace that is pretty good for a really close to the wall dive like that. And this is the best 124. This run is the best 124, and it was Mo's first 124. Very consistent at keeping a high speed. And again, he finishes pretty close to the finish line on the left side, or he finishes close to the left side of the finish line. So good stuff to Mo on that run. Next one that we're going to watch is the second 124. And actually, this is interesting because this was... Oh, I wanted to look at like the timeline of the people who got 124. So the first 124 was by myself on September 10th, 2014. A little bit of Twilight City lore for you, if you will. So September 10th, and Ilu Dude got at 124.947 on October 26th, 2014. Only like a month and 2 weeks after my first 124, he tied it. So that was a very short-lived untied. But here is his current PB, which is a 124.718. This is pretty recent as well. The next 3 players to get 124 in order, Hayate was the 3rd player to get the 124 about a year after Ilu. He got his on October 14th, 2015. And it had actually been between that time, October of 2015, and April of 2017, nobody had gotten it. Of course, Mo broke that streak on April 1st, April Fool's Day, actually. He broke that streak and became the 4th player to get 124 after myself, Ilu, and Hayate. And then Modal, very, very much recently, on December 30th of 2017, he got his first 124 point. It was a 124.855, which we are going to watch as well and get the full pop off for as well. This run was really recent as well. This run out of Ilu Dude was I think just this year, January 15th, 2018.
I guess I'm happy with that for tonight.
Says he's happy with that for tonight. Good stuff. So Hayate is next on the list. He's got the he's got the strat for the fast lap 1 dive. Hayate has also never been a big fan of using the dolphin on any course. Seems that he's almost always playing dolphinless. Gotta make sure to always start your turns a little earlier than you think. But just start them in a way that it feels like you're priming your turn. You know, you're warming the turn up. You're not fully committing to the turn yet, although you are actually. But it's not so much that it takes away the ability to go kind of in a straight line still before you start turning. It's like prepping the turn. I like to call it priming the turn. It's a good bob cycle on lap 3 and an almost perfect dive where he barely loses any speed. So Hayate, what a great time. 124.762. And the most recent player to get it, our good friend Modal, on December 30, 2017. No new 124s yet this year, although the newest record that I've gotten on 3-lap is Twilight City 3-lap. I got it on April 12th, almost exactly a month ago. Today is May 14th, 2018. So I mean, it was a good last couple of years for. I mean, Ilu got the 124 this year as well, but he already had it, so I wasn't exactly counting him. But I mean, it was a good last couple of years for Twilight City, and I expect like the next year to explode with a lot of new 124s on the board. In this run, actually, too, Modal beats Ilu Dude, but it was short-lived because this was one of the first courses that Ilu came back to around the time that he was going for his Drake Lake records.
Yes! Jesus Christ! Oh my fucking god!
Warning headphone users. Sorry about that. So, overall, I would just say, you know, Twilight City, what can be said about it? It's the perfect course. I mean, it definitely has a little bit of everything. Because if you think about it, we've got the dive. We've got 3 of them, actually. We have waves, but they're always, like, set. So it's easy to, like, get used to them, learn how to play them smoothly. You can depend on the perfect dive strat. Remember, the easy way to get a perfect dive every time is just to play until you have one perfect, just holding forward dive for a moment on the joystick at the beginning of the course, and finishing that run, saving your dolphin using the Shindo version of the game, and race against that dolphin and just keep resetting until you have the same bob cycle as that. This is absolutely nothing in comparison to how tedious it is to just get like good cutscenes on Depot and GoldenEye. It's really not that bad. You can listen to music while you play. Just pay close attention to the bob cycle and maximize every opportunity to gain speed. And try your hardest not to lose speed. If you lose speed in some places, you can still get 124. Right now there are 5 players with 124. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe there's more out there. But yeah, it's, I think, one of the best levels in the game because it makes you do a little bit of everything. And it's a Mariner course! And people in this community love the Mariner courses. I tell you. Well, I am going to end the stream with that, you guys. Thank you for watching, and play it out. I think we will watch just one more Twilight City special.
Yes! I did it!
Yes! Oh my god. That's it. It's over.